Before we begin, the name is placed on the top right side of the screen. The Dark Forest, nestled between the Elian Empire to the west and the Harran Empire to the east, serves as a formidable natural barrier. This dense woodland, teeming with dragons and demons, was formed long ago as a result of a fierce war between divine dragons and the demon god. Now, it acts as a boundary that separates the two great nations and their descendants. Despite the horrors of war that have raged around it, the forest remains a land of deities that has never allowed humans to enter, preserving its mystique and danger throughout the ages. A descendant of dragons named Elfiria Elian traveled through the Dark Forest and ended the war. This made her a hero. When she returned, people celebrated her as a princess, even though she was once called a fake princess of the Elian Empire. Despite this, everyone admired her bravery for going into the dangerous Dark Forest. She is now respected and loved by the people for her courage. Many doubted Elfiria, thinking she would die in the Dark Forest or achieve nothing because no one watched over her. Some even accused her of fleeing to the Harran Empire. Despite the doubts, she returned, proving everyone wrong. Elfiria returns as a truly exceptional figure. Upon her return, she is congratulated by a man on her safe return. Someone insults Elfiria, and she hears it, causing her to react. The person who insulted her did it on purpose, while another person fears Elfiria might retaliate. Syria explains that her name means covered in ash and thinks it suits her lowly position as a serf. Syria says she didn't fit in her village, so people treated her like an outcast. The other villagers didn't like her and wondered why she was so tall, thinking it was because she ate better food. They guessed she would become a mistress to an old lord because of her looks. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, which Baron Harper says are features of the imperial family that lives far away in the capital. Syria mentions that her appearance was very special and not common in their small village. When Syria was just 6 years old, a baron over 40 years old asked her to become his mistress when she grew up. After that, the baron made sure her family had lots of food and could go hunting, probably so she would grow up healthy. Because of this, Syria got to eat a lot of meat and eggs. Syria, who is 10 years old, feels most comfortable in the forest. This is because the villagers, who eat simple food, would look down on her family, and this attitude would be passed down to their children. While in the forest, Syria feels at peace. She then knocks on the door, calling out to Mr. Yevon and Galen, asking if anyone is home. When she knocks, Mr. Yevon and his wife Galen answer the door. Yevon questions why Syria refers to him formally, but calls his wife by her first name. Syria teases him, asking if she should call him Yevon instead. Yevon declines, not wanting people to misunderstand their relationship. In the last 4 slides, Syria talks to Mr. Yevon about picking wild berries and blackcurrants. Mr. Yevon and Galen are introduced as 2 of the few freemen in the village who work as hunters and forest keepers for Baron Harper. Mr. Yevon advises Syria to be careful and not to go too far into the woods, reminding her about the location of the wild berries and warning her to watch out for snakes in the berry bushes. Syria and Mr. Yevon have a conversation where Mr. Yevon is concerned for Syria's safety in the woods. He asks if Syria is interested in learning how to shoot a bow to protect herself from potential dangers like wild boars. Mr. Yevon explains that the wild boars could be dangerous as they eat fruits that people also consume. He offers to make a bow for Syria, which he believes would be perfect for her, as she considers a bow a luxury that she, as a serf, wouldn't typically have. She notes that her father uses homemade snares and traps. Mr. Yevon reassures her that she doesn't need to decide immediately and that she should ask her parents for permission first. Syria agrees to talk to her parents and thanks Mr. Yevon for his offer. Syria is thinking about getting a bow. She wonders if she can really learn to use a bow, but is excited about getting something nice for free. She doesn't care what others villagers will think. She is happy about having something expensive and rare. Syria is excited about learning how to shoot a bow. She eagerly thinks about picking some berries quickly so she can go home and ask her parents for permission. As she picks the berries, she marvels at their sweetness and ripeness, wishing she could eat meat and fruit every day. However, she quickly realizes that her basket is empty because she has eaten all the berries she picked. Syria quickly picks berries to fill her basket, and go home she realizes she might be too excited about something. She hears something in the bushes and feels scared. She remembers warnings about snakes and wild boars, which makes her more anxious. Syria feels that something unknown is nearby and moves slowly to avoid being seen. Suddenly, a creature jumps towards her. She reacts quickly to protect herself. Syria falls and exclaims, "Oh no!" She sits up, confused and scared, recalling something jumping from the bushes. She sees a small creature with blue eyes. She wonders if it is a dragon. Syria realizes she might be right about the creature being a dragon, as it resembles a painting she saw in the Baron's castle. However, this dragon isn't as impressive as she imagined. It lacks beautiful feathers and doesn't shine like a jewel. Despite this, its eyes are clear and blue, just like the stories she heard when she was little. She lifts the calm creature, surprised by its soft and warm feathers. Contrary to the scary dragons in stories, this one appears gentle and non-threatening. Syria observes that the dragon's feathers are the color of ash, like her name. She finds the creature adorable and notices it might be hungry. She realizes she has no idea what dragons eat and remembers the creature was hiding in the berry bushes. She offers it a berry, but the dragon seems uninterested. Syria wonders if she needs to feed it meat, but has no access to it as a serf. She wishes the dragon could tell her what it eats because it looks really hungry. Syria is holding the dragon and suddenly gets bitten. She realizes the dragon is drinking her blood and scolds it. Surprisingly, there is no wound or pain after the bite. Syria is confused and wonders what kind of creature it is. Later, as she washes her hands, she reflects on the surreal experience, questioning if it was a dream. However, her name is called, bringing her back to reality as she rushes to stop overflowing water, skiing where her head is and instructing her to clean up and help in the kitchen. Reflecting on her earlier experience, Syria remembers naming the dragon Cisralaya, which means eyes that are big and blue like dewdrops. She wonders why the dragon is being so gentle with her despite having just met. Syria thinks if the dragon sees her as food, a long-lost mother, or a friend. The dragon responds with a happy expression, confirming their friendship. Syria says it's nice to meet you, Cisralaya. Syria's parents are discussing her learning how to shoot a bow. Her father mentions that a man named Yevon offered to make her a bow, which he finds a bit bizarre but valuable. Her mother agrees that having a bow is useful. However, her father warns Syria that she should stop if she starts gaining muscles because a stiff and hard body isn't what his lordship would like. Syria reassures them not to worry about it. Syria learning to shoot a bow. Den expresses his jealousy and desire to learn as well. Syria promises to teach him once she becomes good at it. However, another character dismisses the idea, questioning why a serf would need to shoot an arrow and suggesting Syria should take a few lessons and then quit. Syria decides to try learning first, using it as an excuse to see Cisralaya. She is confident and is assured by another character that she is smart and will know what to do. Syria then asks her father if anyone in their village has ever seen a dragon in person. Her father explains that dragon knights do not come to small country villages unless there is a big war, and it's better if they never see them. Syria wonders what Cisralaya was doing alone in the forest. Syria is curious about ash-colored dragons that drink blood and asks about them, only to be told that such stories are ridiculous. Syria is then questioned about whether she is doing anything strange in the forest, which she denies nervously. When she mentions hearing scary stories from her friends, it's pointed out that she has no friends, leading to an awkward moment. The conversation shifts to cleaning up after dinner and getting ready for bed. Syria, unable to sleep, so much happened today, and including the opportunity to learn how to shoot a bow. She is amazed that she met a dragon and can't believe it. She wonders if meeting the dragon was meant to be. As she looks at the stars, she realizes her life, which was just about her village and the nearby woods, Meeting the dragon has made her world feel larger and more exciting. Syria is given a bow by Yevon, who tells her it is hers. Syria admires the bow and asks if it is made from yew wood, to which Yevon replies that yew trees are too expensive and instead, the bow is made from ash wood. He mentions that the bow is very good for a beginner like her. Yevon explains that since Syria is still growing, she will need a new bow as she gets taller. For now, she can practice stringing and unstringing the bow. Syria wonders if she will ever need a new bow. The scene shifts to a few years later, showing her in a grand room, reflecting that she will be in charge of his lordship's bedroom, suggesting her role has changed over time. Syria and Yevon continue their archery practice. Syria asks Yevon if something is wrong, but he says it's nothing. Syria successfully strings the bow and tests the tension, thinking it feels right. Yevon suggests she just needs more practice. They then prepare to start shooting practice. Yevon advises Syria to protect her hands and use leather to pull the bowstring, warning her that releasing the string improperly can cause injury. He instructs her to extend her stance and pull the string while arching her back. Despite her efforts, Syria struggles and trembles while trying to pull the bowstring correctly. Syria and Yevon begin shooting practice with the bow. A woman named Galen arrives and warns Syria she might be sore tomorrow if she overexerts herself. Despite this, Syria continues practicing. Yevon encourages her to concentrate on the target, and she takes a shot. Although she looks tired, Galen explains that arrows fly in a dome shape and that Syria needs to get used to this. Yevon advises that continuous practice is essential to improve her aim. Syria feels nervous about shooting practice, but Yevon reassures her. He jokes about his wife not being good at archery at first, which makes Syria feel better. A bird scares Syria, and she thinks practicing with moving targets might help her get better. Yevon warns her not to hunt animals without permission. His wife tells him not to scare Syria. Syria reflects on a stern warning she received from Mr. Yevon about not practicing shooting in the woods without permission. She then calls out to Sisraliah, who responds by saying, "I'm here," and leaps towards her. Syria embraces Sisraliah, remarking how it's been a month since they met and noting that Sis still drinks her blood for nourishment. Sisraliah has grown quite big after regaining strength and hunting for small animals. However, Syria still wonders about the true nature of Sisraliah. Syria is trying to understand what kind of dragon Sis is. Mr. Yevon, who knows a lot about dragons, says he has never seen a dragon with ash-colored feathers and blue eyes. He explains that dragons like Sis are usually the guardian dragons of the royal family. And there are called Antis, it was something like that. Chap 4 Syria calls out to a dragon named Sisraliah. She is happy to see Sisraliah and asks what Sisraliah has been doing. Sisraliah responds by pricking Syria's finger, showing that it is hungry. Syria mentions that she has gotten used to Sisraliah drinking her blood and notes that it has been a year since they first met. Over this year, Sisraliah has grown quickly and become more active. This increase in activity has made the villagers, including Mr. Yevon, aware of Sisraliah's presence. His activities have drawn the attention of the villagers, making her nervous about being caught. She marvels at how the little dragon has grown so big, resembling the Empire's guardian dragons from stories. Despite his size, he still acts like a baby dragon. Syria then notices Sis making a sad face and asks if he's crying, concerned about what's wrong. Syria is talking to Sis. Sis notices that Syria looks sad and asks why. Syria falters and seems hesitant, then asks if Sis is leaving. Syria feels upset because they were friends and doesn't understand why Sis would leave. Sis feels constrained in the small forest and needs more space to spread its wings. Syria knows Sis needs to leave but feels heartbroken and fears being alone. The small forest is too limiting for Sis, who needs to find a better home. Sis realizes that he can't live in the forest because it's too small and lacks enough food for him to survive. His presence also makes things difficult for Syria, as he might scare the villagers. Sis needs to find a new home with a large enough space, like the dark forest. Syria has known this for a while, but still feels upset and clenches her fist. Other villagers think Syria looks down on them and worry about how she'll treat them. Sis, understanding her feelings, tries to comfort Syria. She questions if his attempts to make her feel better will work, feeling sadder than she expected, but believes Sis feels the same way. Syria watches Sis fly away and reflects on how much he has grown. She feels proud and amazed at his transformation. Even though it hurts, she knows it is time to let him go. Syria says goodbye to Sis, hoping it is not their final farewell. She recalls how Sis quickly became her best friend. As long as they both wish for it, their friendship will last, and they will meet again one day. Syria runs forward and bids a heartfelt farewell. The villagers comforting Syria, asking what happened as they notice her crying. The scene then shifts to a description of the Aleian Empire, ruled by an imperial family with the sacred blood of ancient divine dragons, using their power to subjugate neighboring countries. The enemy, the Harran Empire, located on the eastern side of the continent, shares the blood of the demon god. The Aleian Empire maintained their dragon bloodline by marrying within the family, while the Harran Empire mixed their bloodline with other royal families, diluting their demon god blood. The Aleian Empire took advantage of this weakness and fortified their border, leading to repeated unsuccessful invasions by Harran. As Harran began to decline, peace spread across the continent, and the Aleian Empire entered a golden age. After the Harran Emperor died without an heir, the princes declared war on each other, causing chaos. In this situation, people in a nearby village had to suddenly take refuge, despite never experiencing war before. A boy hears that all the dragon knights have died in the war, sparking fear about enemy soldiers invading their village. He asks Syria if she will fight, but she is uncertain, hoping it won't come to that. She prepares for the possibility, expressing hope that they won't have to fight. 3 years have passed since Sisraliah left. During this time, I turned 15 and grew taller than my mother. I've also become more accepted in the village, no longer seen as an outsider. As I got older, the villagers' criticism shifted from me to Baron Harper, who was rumored to drink wine made from grapes. Children Syria's age are following their parents' footsteps, and Syria is struggling with heavy tasks. The other kids notice her hard work and start helping her out. They remember that she was chosen by a lord to be his mistress when she grows up. The lord is much older than her father, and the villagers find it crazy. They pity Syria because she was born a serf. The other kids help her carry heavy things, and she realizes that something she didn't understand before is happening. Finally, we see a group of girls, and Syria accepts that she will become the Lord's mistress. The protagonist is holding a weapon while someone pleads for their life. She expresses her lack of hope for the future, feeling that her peaceful world is crumbling. The scene changes to a command center a few days before an invasion, where a knight discusses the need to burn fields to prevent crops from becoming food for the enemy. The commander, Astal, considers the strategic implications, noting that Margrave Rodin has requested reinforcements due to a potential invasion from Harran soldiers. The ruler of Harper, Baron Harper, decides to wait and watch, interpreting the request for reinforcements as a sign that the invasion hasn't happened yet. A knight discusses the current situation with his lord. He explains that most of the Imperial Dragon Knights have perished, and Harran's forces are particularly strong this time. He advises better preparation for the impending threat. The lord is initially hesitant, noting that the Rodin Margravate hasn't been invaded yet, suggesting a wait-and-see approach while sending some reinforcements. However, the knight points out that if the lands are burned, it would lead to significant economic problems. They consider setting fire to the land only once the enemy arrives and discuss how to distribute their limited military power, which includes only 50 soldiers and 6 knights. Finally, they decide to gather hunters and other free men to bolster their defenses. A discussion unfolds about a skilled archer girl who has been kept hidden by orders of the Lord. A man confirms her identity and warns others to be cautious when speaking about her to avoid punishment. The Lord is informed of the importance of having an additional archer during a siege assault. Despite the urgency, the Lord advises patience, as it's unclear if an invasion will happen. The conversation ends with a commitment to send reinforcements, with the Lord himself deciding to go and help secure the castle. However, the older Lord decides to personally join forces with Margrave Roden, leaving behind only a small number of soldiers. Despite concerns about the strength of their defenses, the Lord insists on his plan and urges loyalty from his commander. He plans to take 20 soldiers with him, despite the shortage. His superior demands swift action and preparation, emphasizing the importance of readiness. Estal's subordinate, worried about the plan, questions him, but Estal remains determined and instructs everyone to get ready. The slides end with Estal acknowledging that his options are limited and hoping that their stronghold won't be overtaken by the enemy. Sir Estal is discussing the current situation with his allies. He estimates that they are facing around 1,000 enemy soldiers and notes that their allies will be at a disadvantage if the attack begins immediately. Lancel Harper, the eldest son of Baron Harper, regrets not heeding advice sooner and realizes the enemy stormed in as soon as his father left. They decide to do their best with the forces they have, with Lancel instructing Sir Estal to tell him about their forces and the situation in the territory. Sir Estal reports that villagers have taken refuge in the castle, but the moat is not maintained well enough to provide adequate protection. They prepare for battle with only 30 soldiers and 10 hunters, suggesting that they gather serfs to fight as well. Lancel agrees and orders Sir Carls to follow the commander's instructions. However, Lancel is frustrated that no one seems to be doing their job properly and considers talking to his father about finding new soldiers. Finally, someone addresses Lord Lancel, indicating the start of further discussions or actions. A girl who walks by greets Lancel, who then explains that he needs her bow skills in combat. He promises to free her from serfdom and make her a freeman if she fights well in the coming battle. Despite her reservations and the expectation to become his lordship's mistress after her birthday, she agrees to fight, motivated by Lancel's reassurance and promise of freedom. Syria decides to fight in the coming battle to free herself from her status as a serf and avoid becoming the Lord's mistress. She recalls how Den envied her for not having to build the moat, but now she is anxious about facing the enemy. Syria is called by Mr. Yevon, who heard from the commander that she can become a freeman if she proves her worth in the battle. Although Syria is unsure how things will turn out, she resolves to survive and achieve her freedom. Mr. Yevon expresses his discomfort that a child like Syria is fighting in the war, but also acknowledges her skills and believes in her. Syria thanks him and notices everyone preparing their weapons, asking if they are leaving already. Mr. Yevon confirms this, explaining that they need to burn the land they worked hard to cultivate before the enemy approaches. Syria pleads with him to be careful, and he reassures her to take care of herself. He tells her that Lord Lancel offered to take away her serf status because the war is dangerous and she could lose her life quickly. How easily people can kill each other, and Syria promises to keep that in mind. Mr. Yevon says he will return soon and to be careful, but he didn't come back alive. A critical message is delivered by Nasir Aka, who conveys that their emperor, Saladin Roman IV, sends his condolences for the young lord's loss. The messenger explains that they encountered and battled the young lord's father and his knights on their way, resulting in their deaths. They present the bodies of the deceased and promise not to attack while the bodies are retrieved. Syria is shocked and grieves over the loss, while also pondering the meaning behind the enemy's words. She faces a decision about whether to surrender or continue fighting, as she seeks someone brave enough to retrieve the bodies from outside the castle. Commander asking for volunteers to retrieve the bodies of fallen soldiers. Syria bravely volunteers, stating she will retrieve the bodies, and the commander thanks her for her bravery. He then questions why only a child has volunteered and asks if any soldiers are willing. A soldier steps forward to volunteer as well, recalling the first time he saw the girl and noting her fierce gaze. Another soldier remarks on the cowardice of having a child fight in the war, suggesting that their soldiers must all be dead. The Ilian soldiers are not to be feared. A commander is warned to watch out just as an arrow is shot towards them. The arrow narrowly misses, and the commander is angered by this deliberate taunt from the enemy, suggesting it was meant to mock them. Syria decides to retaliate and proposes to shoot an enemy soldier who is quite far away, approximately 300 yards. She confidently states, "I can do it," and prepares to take the shot, aiming carefully. Syria aims her bow at a distant target to hit the enemy commander. There's a reflection on how death treats everyone equally, whether noble or common. Commander realizes this equality for the first time as the girl prepares and releases her arrow. Syria was sad because she killed someone she remembered that when everyone treating her lord mistress, he is the only one who treats her equally.